Pokemon theories are a lot of fun, and they're probably even more fun when they're absolutely ridiculous. Over the past few years, I've had an ongoing series on the channel where I look at some terrible Pokemon theories, which are terrible because they're obviously not realistically true, but they also make perfect sense at the same time, making for a really funny juxtaposition. I have loved putting these videos together, and so in today's video, I have got 3 more terrible theories that make perfect sense to share with you today, all fabricated by yours truly. Let's check it out. So these terrible theories are always a great time, and what makes them possible is the support of people like today's wonderful sponsor, who is also a new partner for the channel, Rare Candy. Rare Candy is an app, marketplace, and community for TCG players and merch collectors of all kinds, started by our very own Leonhardt. They specialize in Pokemon, of course, but also deal in other franchises as well. And just to give you an idea of how legit they truly are, here's a montage of me opening up one of their signature mystery boxes that they sent me. It'll tell you pretty much everything you need to know. Full art Charizard V. There's a freaking light! They've illuminated the box so it, like, lights up. Base set, I think. Or very early Blastoise, which is awesome. Oh, no way. No way. An unopened pack of base set 2. An unopened pack of base set 2. So yeah, it goes without saying that they are legit as can be, and honestly, this is one of the most impressive products I have ever been sent. They'll also be available in the Rare Candy app when it launches later this year, and you can also join the Rare Candy Discord with the link below in the meantime to get linked up with updates and to join a really fun and friendly community. I'm so excited to be partnered with them, and a huge thank you to Rare Candy for supporting the channel. This first one is a wild expansion on an already well-known observation by the Pokemon community. You've probably heard about the idea that Gastly is a dead cloister, or something to that effect, due to the fact that these two Pokemon have literally the exact same face and head, and they sit right next to each other in the Pokédex. The long-held thought by the community has been that this has gotta mean something, and I am here today to tell you exactly what it means. And to be honest, this theory does make it into this video because of how wild it is, but I don't know that I can necessarily say that it's terrible if I do say so myself, because it really does make a lot of sense. The theory is that Gastly was originally a split evolution of Shellder instead of part of its own line, and possibly was a water ghost type instead of ghost poison. Firstly, we've obviously already established the visual similarity between Cloyster and Gastly, but Gastly also bears some similarity to Shellder's head and face as well, with Shellder's head and face just being a little more contained within its own shell. Speaking of shells, that is the biggest difference between Gastly and these Pokemon. It doesn't have a shell, while Shellder and Cloyster do. Well, why do you think that Gastly is a ghost type in the first place? Gastly is a ghost type as a hypothetical branched evolution of Shellder, that is, because it has lost its shell, which Shellder and Cloyster need to survive. This explains not only the visual similarity between these Pokemon, but also why they sit right next to each other in the Pokédex, and why Gastly is a ghost type in comparison to Shellder and Cloyster's water type. Hypothetically, if Shellder leveled up like normal and is given a Water Stone, it would evolve into Cloyster like it actually does. But if something else happened to Shellder, it would instead lose its shell and evolve into Gastly. This theory is even consistent with Gastly's actual evolutions, Haunter and Gengar, because if you look at Haunter and Gengar, they look like each other, but Gastly doesn't really look like them. Almost as if Gastly was made into their pre-evolution as sort of an afterthought, as a backup plan, if you will, after the idea to give Shellder a Ghost-type split evolution fell through. And since Gastly was already a ghost type and already next to two other ghosts in the Pokédex, the decision was ultimately made to make Gastly a part of the Gengar line instead of the Cloyster line like it was originally planned to be. Okay, so while that last one was maybe a little more plausible than you were expecting, this next one is truly the definition of what this video is all about, and it is the idea that Snowrunt and Glaly are half Pokemon, half human hybrids. Yeah, stay with me on this one, I promise I will explain it. Snowrunt and Glaly, similar to the theory we just talked about with Gastly, are a part of a split evolution line with Froslass. Froslass is a very interesting Pokemon because its Pokédex entries talk about how it likes to trap and freeze men who attempt to hike snowy mountains and then brings them back to its home to use as decorations. The other thing that its Dex entries say, though, is how this Pokemon was born from the soul of a woman who died on a snowy mountain. So with that in mind, Froslass clearly did not come into existence naturally. So how in the heck is it supposed to be attached to Glaly and Snowrunt as a part of their family? There is really no legitimate reason for this to be the case based on Froslass's lore, unless you consider the fact that Snowrunt and Glaly are the Pokemon human hybrid descendants of the original Froslass. In Pokemon Legends Arceus, there is a side quest involving Froslass that has to do with finding the remains of an old village, and while looking for the village, you find a journal. This journal, while its wording is faded and broken, tells a story about a man who encountered a Froslass who threatened to kill him, but didn't, and later on, he went on to marry a woman, only to find out that that woman was the Froslass, who had taken the form of a human woman to ensure that the man didn't tell anyone about their encounter. As fellow Poketuber Hybrid Hero explained in his video on the topic, the story of this side quest is likely based on a real-life folktale about the Yukiona, which is Frostlass's inspiration. The story follows the plot of the one in Legends to a T, because it involves a man unknowingly marrying a Yukiona, just like the man did in Legends with Froslass. However, this real-life folk story goes on to describe children that this man and the Yukiona had together during their marriage, which is a detail that the Pokemon version of the story does not mention. It's easy to understand why this detail didn't make it into the Pokemon Legends interpretation, but because the Legends version is very likely inspired by this story, there is reason to believe that this element of the story could have also been brought to life in Pokemon, just in a way that doesn't go into the specific details. And that way is where Snowrunt and Glaly come into play. Since, as we've mentioned before, Froslass did not come into existence naturally, there would have had to have been a Froslass that was the first Froslass, aka the original lady who died on a snowy mountain and became this Pokemon, like the Pokédex describes. With that in mind, due to the nature of this story from Pokemon Legends Arceus, and the fact that it took place in the distant past, it's very possible that the Froslass in this story is the first one. And with it marrying a human man, and if the real-life version of this story was indeed fully interpreted, it would explain why Snowrunt and Glaly are a part of Frostlass's evolutionary family, despite there being no other logical reason for them to be. It's because their species was created as the offspring of Frostlass and a human, making them human Pokemon hybrids. This would also kind of explain why Snowrunt and Glaly look the way they do, as creatures who are basically just black blobs, and who also like to keep themselves concealed, with Snowrunt doing so with its little coat thing, and Glaly using ice to cover its face. It's because these Pokemon are grotesque hybrid creatures, and they want to keep this concealed from the rest of the world. And for our last theory of the video, we have one that I do have to admit is somewhat plausible, but it is still wild nevertheless, so I thought it fit the bill of this video. This theory concerns the idea that Rowlet was originally going to be a starter Pokemon in Generation 6 in the Kalos region with X and Y, but instead was saved for Generation 7. Now, the explanation for this isn't as long-winded as the last theory was, but it's certainly no less convincing either. If we take a look at the actual Kalos starters, their final evolutions all have a shared theme, and that is the theme of RPG classes. Chestnut is the warrior class, Delphox is the mage, and Greninja is the thief/rogue. With that in mind, it's very interesting to note that Decidueye also fits in with this RPG theme, as it has an archery theme that could represent the archer/ranger class. This archery inspiration for Decidueye also partly comes from Robin Hood, who has his roots in English folklore, which is European just like the Gen 6 games, which take place in a French-based region. Furthermore, if we take a step back and look at Decidueye's pre-evolutions, they also fit in perfectly with a European setting. Both Rowlet, with its little bow tie, and especially Dartrix, are very much a couple of pretty boys, and that is a perfect match for French culture, which is stereotypically seen as very fancy and posh. So, with Rowlet and its evolutions fitting in perfectly with not only Kalos as a region, but also the other Kalos starters and their theme, it really does make all the sense in the world, in my opinion anyway, that it was planned as the grass starter for Generation 6, but for whatever reason plans were changed and it was decided that Rowlet and its line would be held back until a little later on when they made their debut in Pokémon Sun and Moon. Well, there you have it everyone. What did you all think of these theories? Be sure to let me know in the comments below, and leave a like if you enjoyed the video, and subscribe if you're new for more Pokemon content. With that said, I will be back with another video very soon, and until then, as always, thank you all so much for watching this one. I love you guys very much, and I will smell you guys later.